there's a narrow gap between the long and short sections. Careful photography, that's fine. Coming to another room. From the site still is. It's now it's obviously been sealed off, but that's where they would have got water from all through the centuries.
Oh, we got one at home.
You have, yeah.
Yeah, and the farm from generation. We are lucky.
We did used to have a light in there, but it stopped working, so it's very hard to see what. It's very overgrown. Some bells. Oh, I feel that.
I think it is.
It's 30 years. I'm not quite sure when this was done, but it is going to be a major task to do. A major expense as well. That's the other problem. Well, most of the building is 1463, but the stone extension and the chimneys, that's 1697.
1960.
So before they had the chimney, they just had a hole in the roof.
1697.
When it was originally the 3 rooms, they would have a good thatcher will put the reeds down so that there's enough space between the reeds for the smoke to go through it, and any rain would run along the reeds and the building. And about 90 acres of land around you were all given over to sheep farming. They didn't own the place to begin with, they were renting it. And the main tenant was Anne's grandfather, Richard, with his son. The stonework starts at that end, and it was just 3 rooms, all on the ground floor, open to the thatch roof at the length of this long section. As I said, the Hathways move in 1543, and Anne comes along in 1556 and lives here for the first 26 years of her life, when she meets some guy from Stratford who writes plays called William Shakespeare. When she meets and marries Shakespeare, she's already expecting a baby. She's 3 months pregnant. That's not unusual in these parts, but 30% of Warwick's brides gave birth within the first 9 months of being married. We don't know for certain very much about Anne Hathaway. The main facts about her are written on her tombstone in Holy Trinity. That gives us the date she died, how old she was, so we can work out when she was born. And apart from a few wedding documents, one of which gets her name wrong and refers to William Shakespeare marrying somebody called Anne Watley of Temple Grafton. Temple Grafton is a little village down the road. There's nothing certain, nothing we can point at that we know about Anne Hathaway. However, what there is a great deal of is people over the centuries speculating what sort of person she was and what sort of person Shakespeare married. And the first versions of that, the first biographies of Shakespeare, to be honest, were not very complimentary. They could not understand how a man like Shakespeare, with all his talents and gifts, could have anything in common with a sheep farmer's daughter, who they considered to be illiterate. Now, there's nothing that said she was illiterate, but there's no examples of her handwriting. So we don't know what sort of woman she was. We've only got people's guesswork. Much later biographies in the 19th century took a completely opposite view. They read the plays, made up some theories, and they saw Anne as Shakespeare's muse. She's the woman who inspired him to all these plays. Again, absolutely no evidence for that. So you kind of make up your own mind. Most recently, we've seen Maggie O'Farrell's Hamlet, published as a novel, which tells the story of William and Anne's first son, Hamlet, Shakespeare, and speculates about the relationship. And later this year we will see a film of that book with Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare and Saoirse Ronan as Anne. So we've got 2 Irish actors, so we're going to get another take on Anne and William. As I said, Anne marries Shakespeare and moves to live with him and his family on Henley Street, and Hewlands Farm at that point is being looked after by her brother Bartholomew. Her father and grandfather have both died, and Bartholomew is running the place. And the thing to remember about the Hathaways, they were not some sort of yokel farmers. They had positions on the council. They were well connected. They were a strong middle class family, and Bartholomew has run the farm, and by 1610 he's made enough money to buy the place for £200. Now, if you think that the annual salary of a working man was £2, £200 was an awful lot of money. So it tells you how well Bartholomew is doing. And we think that he wasn't the sort of man to not let you know how well he was doing. The first thing he does when he takes full ownership of the building is he knocks part of it down, extends it to the length that it is in that direction, puts a floor right across the full length of it and raises the height of the roof. So it goes from being a 3-room building, very basic, to an 11-room building. He's made a big impression there. And when you get inside and look at the bedrooms upstairs, some of the furniture in there we think belong to Bartholomew. You will see it's fancy furniture, it's expensive. He's got money to burn. So he's doing very well. He dies in 1625, and another generation of Hathaways take over. Sadly not as competent, it would seem, as Bartholomew, and slowly over the generations things start to go wrong. They do have enough money to build themselves a new kitchen, which is the stone area you see on the chimneys, and if you can see the middle one, that's got some initials on, that's JH, another John Hathaway, 1697. And that's kind of how the building has stayed until today. Unlike the Hathaway fortune, which is really on the decline by this point. And if you're visiting Stratford in the 17th century, 1700s, that